Welcome, welcome, welcome to yet another edition of Central Valley Business. I am Jeff Crow, substituting for Mr. Mike Scott, who is in China. I think we pay that guy too much. He's off on these extravagant vacations. Meanwhile, I have to work. But that's the whole other issue there.
Anyhow, today we are joined by a great advocate for agriculture. That's a big issue here in the Central Valley, as it is nationwide. And that gentleman would be Mr. Troy Hadrick. Welcome, Troy.
Hey, thanks for having me on and let me share my story a little bit today.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. Troy, go ahead and give us an overview of your how you got started with agriculture and what type of things you do, ranching or ag, whatever.
Yeah, so I grew up, born and raised here in north central part of South Dakota.
Okay.
I'm a diversified farm and ranch. And I've grown up around cattle all my life. Also raised corn, soybeans, and wheat, and hay. And so, it's like a lot of kids I grew up with. You grew up working on the ranch every day, and went to college and found a wife and studied agriculture and came home and really thought, we were headed home to work and just keep our nose to the grindstone and raise cows and kids. And we hadn't been home very long and really learned that there were some other things we had to do just besides working out on the ranch. There was a lot we needed to do to be out advocating for agriculture as well and helping consumers know where their food comes from. And so we, 10 years ago, set off and had some things happen to us that really taught us some tough lessons about why that was necessary. And for the last 10 years now, we've been traveling and speaking to producer groups, working with them on how do we make that happen? How do we deal with animal rights people that don't share the truth about animal agriculture, and how do we share with consumers what that real story is? And it's been a pretty fantastic journey that's taken us to a lot of places around the globe, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've studied some of the animal rights activist groups, and obviously, I think it's just common sense and common human desire to treat, cats, dogs humanely. Only the most psychopathic people would want to abuse an animal, but those folks carry it way too far, especially the PETA folks. And some others that are even more extreme. They act like that killing a cow in order to have food is essentially the equivalent of murdering a human being, and some outrageous things like that.
There's no doubt. We've had to deal with that a lot over the last few decades, and part of it boils down to really those of us in agriculture in the United States. We're almost a victim of our own success. We've done such a good job of raising food and fiber and fuel in this country that you don't ever think twice about wondering if there'll be food at the grocery store when you go there the next time. That the shelves are always going to be chock full of anything you want, and you don't have to worry about it, and you can get it any time of year. And it's really an amazing thing, and you don't have to go back very many decades to where that wasn't the case. And so people automatically think that, now that we've got to this point, we can go back and we can stop doing some of the things we used to do. We don't have to raise livestock maybe, and just assume that those grocery store shelves are still going to be full of food the next time they go there, and really lost touch with how that happens. So, I really do think we were a victim of our own success there, and we're kind of humble people by nature. We tend to stay home and keep your nose to the grindstone, and we got the work done. And we weren't out there helping to remind folks about where their food come. And now that they're 2, 3, 4 generations removed from the land, they really don't have that connection anymore. And so we've kind of had to start over, those of us in agriculture, with the consumers in this country to start introducing ourselves again and really make a hard effort to go out and share with them what we do every day and why it's important.
Yeah, you brought up some very, very good points, and I've noticed that as well, that the self-sufficiency that past generations have had has started to go away, and and that's great in one sense. That shows that our previous generations' sacrifices has made a better world for us, a more convenient world. And it does have its downside, though, and that would be one of them, that the lack of self-sufficiency. Because what if God forbid, a terrorist attack happens at a large scale, or we have severe weather conditions that ruin a lot of crops or whatever, or a disease sweeps through our cattle and whatnot. What are people going to do? They don't have that backup plan, and they do take agriculture and ranching for granted. I've noticed, and they put and they also, like you said, put a lot of requirements on food production and not thinking about the consequences.
Yeah.
What say you, if you want to expand on that?
Yeah, I mean, there's major consequences. And not only do we have to continue with the production levels right now, but we have to continue to do more. The population continues to grow, not only in the United States, but obviously across the world. We're 35 years out from a planet having 9 billion people on there. And we've got to figure out how to feed those folks 3 times a day. And there's hungry people today. There's no doubt about it. We've got enough food to feed everyone today. Most of our famines, I guess, are hungry people. A lot of times that's more politically caused than a shortage of food a lot of times in places in the world. But so we can't back up. We can't, it's funny. Everybody wants the newest iPhone. They want the newest gadget here and there. But when it comes to agriculture, they want us to back up about 50 years and stop with the technology we had there and not progress anymore. And we can't do that. I mean, my grandfather, when he was on this same place I was and running the same herd of cows I am today, he was only feeding 19 people with what he produced. Today, I'm feeding 155 every year across the country. And so we've got to make that number continue to grow. We've got to make that production get bigger with less land. We've got to figure out how to use less inputs and continue to grow more efficient than we've ever been before. And so we've got the technology to do it. I mean, it's amazing what we have done over the last 30, 40, 50 years, where we've come from. We're not that far away from, plowing the ground with a horse and a one-bottom plow. In fact, we've still got all the get up in the barn for what it would take to hook up a horse again and work the land. Today we do it with 4-wheel drive tractors, and we can do it doing 100+ foot swaths down the fields. And so if we continue to move down that path of using more technology and getting better and finding new ways to do things, then we won't have any trouble feeding people. But we've got to have that freedom to do it.
Yes, absolutely, Troy. Regardless of the industry, in most cases, a hands-off approach by government is much more preferable than government control. So let's move on. We've got a couple minutes left. Go ahead and let us know a little bit more for our audience, folks. He does an ag report. Go ahead and let us know a little bit about that and what your reach is and what areas are covered.
Yeah, so because Stacy and I, we've been out speaking to a lot of audiences over the last decade, and we're continually trying to find different ways that we can reach consumers, reach producers, use technology to make those connections and build those relationships. So just here within the last year now, I started a weekly short radio report that I do talking about ag issues of the day, and not too much, not get into real heavy details, but a lot of times it's focused on how do we as producers connect. What's going on today in the country that affects us as producers, and how do we take those maybe sometimes negative situations and turn them into opportunities to share our story. And so it's been a new venture for me to kind of get into the radio business, but it's not anything too complicated yet. I was fortunate to have a friend in Michigan that would help start a farm radio network over there, and they've got us on the air over there every week, and it's been a really cool experience for me to start finding a new channel for us to help share that story of agriculture.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's wonderful how these opportunities come up. Much the same with me. I was in a completely different field. I was doing some industry work and sales and marketing, and then all of a sudden my first opportunity to get into radio and broadcast and TV landed, and it's been a fun ride ever since. What kind of reception do you get from your audience?
It's been really good. I've been fortunate to get some feedback from the folks there in Michigan, and they've really grown it across their network and get a lot of feedback from those guys. And just this week, had another couple radio stations that contacted me, and hopefully we can find a way to get it onto some of their programming as well. And so, I think there's kind of a push even within consumers today. They know that they want to learn more about agriculture, obviously. And I think today, too, they're starting to realize that maybe the best place to learn about agriculture is from farmers and ranchers themselves. Let's cut through the internet. Let's not ask Google where our food comes from. Well, let's ask the farmer where our food comes from.
Absolutely.
And so having that opportunity, I think, is consumers are starting to get into that.
Thank you. We got to wrap this up, so go ahead and let folks know. We've got your web address on the screen, but go ahead and let them know how to reach you and get more info.
You can find us on our website. It's www.advocatesforag.com. And that's what Stacy and I, we travel under that name, I guess, Advocates for Agriculture, because that's what we are. And I'm blessed to be a fifth-generation rancher and raising the sixth generation here, and we feel it's an important part of our job to make sure our kids have the same opportunities we did to be in agriculture.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, you promise you to come on again with us very soon here?
Yeah, absolutely, anytime.
All right. Yeah, it was great having you, and we will, again, folks, Troy Hadrick, advocatesforag.com, spell out the word for, and we'll be right back after these messages from some of our advertisers here on Central Valley Talk and TV channel 30.